See, this isn't an FX5, it's an FX3. And that's the problem. So there's zero clickbait intended from this video. I genuinely think that most A7S III, FX3 users shouldn't actually get the FX5. And that's coming from someone who owns the FX6, owns the FX3, and what I'm shooting on right now, the A7 IV as like my stills camera. Like most other people in the camera space, we've spent the last few days watching countless videos on the FX5. I've had the opportunity to get hands-on with the camera, not very long, but I did go to a Sony event. We were to hold the camera, test it out, go out and shoot a few bits, and it was cool. So first impressions of the FX5 is obviously great. You know, it's really cool having all these new features, and that's not really what I want to dive into this video, because there's people who have had longer with the camera who can tell you more about it, which makes more sense. I more want to get into almost warning a lot of the people who may not be able to have hands-on yet that this camera might not be for you. So compared to a few of the other reviewers of the camera, I do this stuff for a living. You know, YouTube isn't my full-time thing. I create videos of my cameras for a living. Some of the other people who reviewed the FX3, which is nothing wrong with it, no shade at all, don't necessarily use it in the way that Sony intend the cameras to be used for. You know, this is a production first camera meant to, you know, make short films, documentaries, commercial stuff, whatever it is. And a lot of the people who are speaking about the camera are more of a creator. I do just want to further clarify that statement. I'm not throwing shade at all on anyone who creates content for YouTube, social media, whatever it is, because I mean, I'd love to be doing that as well. I just think there is a difference between people who are creating stuff primarily for YouTube, social media, rather than client work, whatever type of client work it is. But there is just that type of difference between that style of professional work and the needs those people would have with their cameras, in my opinion. And that's why I kind of think a lot of people may be misled, because I don't think this is a creator first camera for quite a few reasons, but initially starting just from the menu system. So this of course is the FX6, but the menus are exactly the same. And when you compare the menu system from this camera compared to the FX3, they are very different. They aren't your run and gun menus. They just aren't as quick. There's so many little things that just take it away from being that quick run and gun camera that the FX3 is compared to the FX5. They kind of seem more cumbersome and slower to use, and that's intentional because it's more of a production camera as opposed to just a creative camera, or not creative, creator camera. So things like changing your frame rates on a camera like this and the FX5 and the FX6, that whole process literally takes, I don't know, like 8 seconds maybe. So for that, let me see if I can do this without in the flipped screen. So currently in 25 frames per second. If I want to change this down to 24, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds, literally 10 seconds to change the frame rate from 25 to 24. And yes, you could say, oh, I'm going from PAL to NTSC. Okay, cool. Let's go from 24 into, oh, there we go, 24 into 2398. All you're doing is dropping 0.002 frames. Go again. Oh my gosh, the same thing. So things like that, when you're on a camera compared to the FX3, it just takes a little bit longer. If I get the same thing up on the FX3 now, hello focus, there we go. So on 23, if I go up to 56, not 56, 59, we go, okay, that's it, it's done. Like, it's literally instant. So I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea why that is the case, because it doesn't matter, something in my eye. It doesn't matter if it's like, if I'm in Cine EI or flexible ISO, the same is just the same. Changing your frame rate on this is like, if they call it changing the frequency, and it does just require the whole camera to reboot, and it takes 10 seconds. So that already is an annoyance. It's just, why is it taking so long? I don't really find that as an issue with my FX3, because a lot of the times I just go into S&Q, I go straight from, what do I go from? 2398 to 120 frames per second, which is cool. However, the FX3 can record 120 frames per second with audio, which I prefer as opposed to S&Q. So I prefer actually changing the frame rate as opposed to going into S&Q mode. So that's just one thing. It's just now going to slow me down even more. The next thing, focusing. The focusing on this camera is so strange. So the focus options we have on here is wide, zone, and flexible spot. Now, I personally prefer using flexible spot, and then you can kind of choose where that spot goes. Now, what is annoying about this is, if you can see that kind of orange box, I'm moving that around with the joystick now. If I select that in place, that's where it is. It's kind of hard to see now on the black screen, but that's where it is, and that's where it will stay. I can't use the kind of joystick up here or the one on the handle. I can't move that to change the focus box. That box is just where it is. If I want to change the focus box again, I have to go back into that menu part, go to flexible spot, move it around, confirm it, and that's it. Whereas in the FX3, we of course have this extensive menu, and if I go to the flexible spot, I can then just use the joystick up here and just move that around wherever I want. So there are times where, you know, I might want to go center framing, then I might want to go framing the right thirds, make sure the focus is there. If I don't want to focus on the face, little things like that. You just now can't do that on the FX5. Again, it's not the end of the world. You get around with it. I've had this camera for years now and I'm used to it. These are just reasons why it's just a bit slower to use an FX5. One of the last things that really annoys me, this isn't necessarily a deal breaker or something that would warn you against the FX5, but it's more of just a personal annoyance. If I want to do the auto white balance, so there's a button down here, the white balance set, that would, if I press this here, it's going to try and take the white balance from the image. So all that is when you have a gray card, you know, you put a gray card up here, you want to test the lighting and you want to do all of that. So on the Alpha series cameras, set, and then you can see this box here. So moving this D-pad, I can move around this box, and what it's going to do is take the reading from wherever that orange box is. I don't have gray cards that are always going to be right up here like you would need on the FX5 or FX6. So yeah, it's just annoying. There's just certain things that I don't understand that make the cameras harder to use or it's more difficult to use. And I get it's a production camera, it's more of a high-end cinema camera, cool. But there's things that just don't make sense when the same things on your smaller creator cameras work differently and work easier. So these are just a few of the use cases of when you're shooting on something like a production camera like an FX6 and now the FX5 compared to something that's more creator focused like an FX3. Now the FX3 can get you incredible images and so can the FX6 and FX5 I'd imagine, but I would never use this camera for Instagram reels, YouTube stuff. Like the file sizes are too big. It's too big of a camera. It's a whole faff. It's a whole setup. I'm right now using my A7 IV, a little mic on top. Perfect. That's all I need. For my Instagram reels, social content, I would do the similar thing. I would usually use my FX3, whatever mics, or it's DJI mics, whatever, and it's easy to go vertical. You can see I even have a plate on it right now because I last used it in a vertical format, and it's very easy to use. I now feel like I wouldn't really use an FX5 to do those same things just because everything just takes that much longer. The menu systems take longer to dive into. There's a few nice things, but I'm not hating on the FX5 at all. You know, I honestly think it's a great camera. I just don't want people to get it thinking that it's going to be a replacement of the FX3 because they are different cameras. And Sony has said this, and I just don't think there's been enough noise about it. People not realizing this really isn't an FX3 Mark II. Like this, it's not a creator camera like that at all. There's a lot of times where I have a BTS shooter and sometimes I hand them my FX6. They see that menu and they're like, what the hell is this? It's just so much more complicated to learn. It's just not as friendly compared to the FX5. Nope, not as friendly compared to the FX3. And I do want to reiterate, this isn't me hating or doing anything on the FX5. I think it's an incredible camera. You know, things like OpenGate, even that OpenGate, for the first year, you can't shoot anything but RAW. I'm sorry, that is not creative focus at all. Like, yes, that is great being able to shoot RAW, being able to use OpenGate, but most people don't need RAW for most of what they're creating. I say most people, that is very a broad term, but a lot of people who use the FX3, from my experience, people I've seen, online creators and stuff, don't need to be shooting RAW. You don't need RAW for social media content. You really don't. Like, you can get away with 420. I don't use it. I prefer, you know, HS, SI 422 at a minimum, but you can get away with it. People shoot their iPhone and your iPhones aren't here shooting RAW. I guess you can get ProRes RAW, but you wouldn't use ProRes RAW for a lot of Instagram reels. You just don't really need to. So it's that kind of framing that I want you to kind of have in mind if you are thinking about getting the FX5 from someone who has the FX3, from someone who has FX30, A7 V, whatever it is. This camera isn't a friendly creator camera, in my opinion. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. So I'm going to go pre-order the FX5. See ya.